Okay. And you swore to tell the truth in that deposition as best you can, correct?
Yes,
Okay. Can you turn to page 116 of your deposition transcript?
certainly. Did you say 16, Counselor?
116, 116.
Did you say 16?
Xin chào các bạn, đây là ngày thứ 11 của phiên tòa xử vụ diễn viên rất là nổi tiếng Johnny Depp, diễn viên trong bộ phim cướp biển Caribe rất là nổi tiếng, kiện đòi phỉ báng tố cô vợ là
Okay,
và đây là ngày
And
thứ
now you
11.
just answered no to my question.
Bên luật sư của bên bên đang phỏng vấn hỏi ông luật sư ông
About your colleagues maintaining
bên,
communication
của,
with Christy
Johnny
Dombrowski, but
Depp.
at your deposition just 2 months ago on line 11, page 116. The question is, what about Christy Dombrowski? The page 116 answer that you gave is, I haven't spoken to Christy in some time. One of my colleagues probably answer that you gave is, I haven't spoken to Christy in some time. One of my colleagues probably maintains an active basis of communications between her and our firm. Did I read that right?
Yes, but you
That was my question.
define the
Just if I
term.
read that right, sir. Now, part of the services that you provide, that your firm provides to Mr. Depp, is to pay the bills to his doctors, correct?
Yes,
And you make payments relating to maintenance or damages to his properties, correct?
yes,
Now, you were contacted in early 2016, right? You testified to that to do work on behalf of Mr. Depp?
we were engaged in March
Engaged.
of 2016, if that's your question.
Right. Right. Around February 10th? Is that when you were first contacted?
I do not recall the date.
And you said you were introduced by executives, a guy named Richard Smith at the Bank of California.
Yes,
Mr. Depp owed significant amount of money to the Bank of California at that time, correct?
no.
He owed money to the Bank of California, correct?
I do not recall that he had an active indebtedness with the Bank of California. He had other commercial loans. But not with the Bank of California.
And after you were brought on, you developed an understanding that Mr. Depp's financial status was very challenging, correct?
It was challenging, but we had an ability to resolve the problems if they were properly addressed.
He had liquidity problems, right?
He had substantial assets in excess of his liabilities, but he had short-term obligations that need to be satisfied.
Let me just ask that again. At the time that you were brought on, he had liquidity problems, correct?
Can you define liquidity for me?
I'm asking you. At the time he was brought on, he had liquidity problems, correct?
I would define the term liquidity as where the short-term assets are less than the short-term, are less than the short-term liabilities. And if that's how you define it, liquidity, I would agree.
In layman's that I can understand, because I don't speak all the kind of business school terms that you speak. He didn't have enough money at the time, correct? He was spending more than he was bringing in, correct?
Yes.
And you gave him advice about how he could hopefully get out of that problem, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And just to be clear, Mr. White, because you've testified to some degree of knowledge about wine that you allege that Ms. Heard requested. So you seem to have some knowledge of Mr. Depp's spending. Ms. Heard didn't buy any of the dozen properties that Mr. Depp owned, correct?
Correct. He owned the assets prior to their marriage.
She didn't pay $5 million to blast Hunter Thompson's ashes out of a cannon, did she?
Not to my knowledge.
She didn't buy a yacht that she couldn't afford and then have to sell it to J.K. Rowling, did she?
Not to my knowledge.
Now let's talk about that meeting on April 21st, 2016. You said the meeting started at about 7:30 p.m.?
Yes.
And lasted till maybe 9:30, is that right?
Yes.
And you have no idea, no personal knowledge where Mr. Depp went after he left that meeting, do you?
That is correct. I did not go with him. I went home.
And at that meeting, Mr. Depp was given some catastrophic news about his business, correct?
He was given news that he needed to address a number of financial issues. But I had a strategy and plan to fully resolve them.
That news that he was given that night was catastrophic, wasn't it?
No.
Tòa án đang lấy lời khai của giám đốc điều hành Kim
May I
tổng
approach your
cổ
honor?
cố vấn của Liên minh Tự do Dân sự Hoa Kỳ, TRtrebuC, người mà cho biết bà cô Amber Heard đã muốn quyên góp 3.5 Mỹ Kim cho tổ chức phiên nhuận này. Và ông TRtrebuC nói là cô Amber Heard không có quyên góp số tiền là 3.5 triệu Mỹ Kim, mà đã trả trực tiếp là 350.000 Mỹ Kim trong một đợt xét, được 100.000 Mỹ Kim từ Johnny Depp.
Mr. White, let's do this again with another under oath series of statements. You gave testimony in the UK trial, did you not?
Yes,
And that testimony was under oath. Correct?
yes,
All right. And in front of you, I have your testimony from the UK trial, and you gave that testimony on behalf of Mr. Depp, correct?
I gave it honestly.
Okay. You gave it on behalf of Mr. Depp, correct? You were one of his witnesses called.
That is correct.
Okay. Can you please turn to page 865? And it's just the second page of the document, upper left. Before that, the questions are talking about this meeting on April 21st, 2016. And you were asked the question, now Mr. Depp was given some catastrophic news about his business. Answer, that is correct. Did I read that right?
You did, but remember,
No. That was just
No,
my
I get a
question.
chance
You
to
answered my
respond.
question, sir. You answered
I
my
did not
question.
define that.
Sir, you'll have a chance, the attorney will get back up and redirect you, okay? So if you could just answer his question, that's fine.
And the reason I'm asking, sir, is because you just gave the exact opposite testimony here. So that's why we pointed that out. Now, you at this meeting, you had a discussion about his financial affairs and a necessity to formulate a revised business strategy and plan, correct?
yes,
And you talked about the following financial information. You talked about bank obligations and tax liabilities, right?
yes,
Which means money you owe to either the government or banks, correct?
yes,
You talked about assets that he needed to sell, correct?
yes,
Properties and things like that he needed to sell to generate money.
correct,
You talked about ways to reduce spending, correct?
yes,
And you talked about how to get new engagements, correct?
yes.
How to get new gigs, right?
Not how to get them, but
The
I
need to
encouraged
get
him to get them.
Un-
I'm not an
understood.
agent.
I
do
appreciate
not
that.
procure his engagement.
And understood. You talked about the need to get new gigs to generate additional money to help address these financial woes that he was experiencing, correct?
Yes,
You also told him at that meeting that his taxes, he hadn't paid taxes in years, correct?
no, that's not correct. That he had not paid any taxes in years is not correct.
That he was significantly delinquent in federal tax obligations dating back years, correct?
I don't know how you're defining years. There were delinquent liabilities. I addressed them and formulated a plan.
And you talked about the significant delinquent tax liabilities that would run into the millions of dollars. Taxes unpaid, correct?
That is correct.
And so after receiving this catastrophic news, as we discussed, you have no idea where Mr. Depp went when he walked out of the doors of his office, correct?
I do not know
Okay.
where he went.
Can you pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 936, please? And Mr. White, I'm not gonna, this is a long document, that we can scroll through, but what I'll represent to you, and Michelle can sort of scroll down, is that these appear to be Mr. Depp's tax returns for Mr. Depp and his companies from 2009 to 2019. Do you see that?
Yes,
And these are returns as part of your role as his CPA firm now, his business manager firm now. Your firm prepares these tax returns, correct?
yes,
And you maintain these tax returns in the ordinary course of your business, correct?
that is correct.
Your Honor, I know there's going to be plenty of redaction to do, but I just would like to move these into evidence. I don't plan to publish them or anything at this point. We just saw the text that I started reading. Do you remember that text?
Yes,
Okay, we're just gonna show you and move for admission of that page of the document with that text. So I just wanted, since you won't see anything else, I just wanted you to orient yourself that is the text that we were just reading, okay?
fine.
Your Honor, that page or that text?
They're gonna redact it, just that one text.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I would move for admission of this document as, I guess we could call it defendant's 874A.
Okay, 874A with the redactions, all right, thank you.
Mr. White, you just testified a few minutes ago that you didn't have any understanding of Mr. Depp showing up late for work on Pirates 5, but in fact, you received this text from Tracy Jacobs that says, thanks.
All right,
I got a
so
call from
936
Disney
will
last
come
week saying he
into
showed up
evidence,
5
but I'll wait
hours
for
late for
redactions and they will
ADR
not be
work in
published.
London for Pirates 5. I really need to speak to him before he starts work Thank you, on Your his Honor.
next
project in LA. Did I read that right? Permission to publish this, Your Honor?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Do you want me to respond?
I just wanted to ask you if I
Mr.
read
White,
that right, that you received this text message
you-
saying in part,
you
I got a call from
understood that
Disney last week saying he
Mr.
showed
Depp
up 5 hours late for ADR work in London. for
showed up
Pirates
hours
5.
late
I
for
really
work on
need to
Pirates
speak to
5,
him
correct?
before he starts work on this next project in LA. Did I read that right?
That is not correct. I believe you read it right.
Thank you. Now, At some point, you became familiar. Are you familiar with Tracy Jacobs? At some point, you became familiar, as you testified, with what Amber planned to do with the money that she got from Mr.
Yes.
Depp in the divorce, correct? And at the time that she was
It was
serving
the
as his agent,
understanding
part
from the
of her
beginning the
job
money would be contributed to
responsibilities,
charities.
the two charities, to the
Contract
Children's
drafting that
Hospital
manner.
of Children's Hospital of LA Affairs, correct? And the ACLU, correct?
That is correct. To the extent she
And as we
had knowledge,
discussed, you wrote
yes, she
checks to
would
those two
communicate.
organizations
And
that
you
were
and she
part
did
of
communicate about
Mr. Depp's
Mr.
divorce
Depp, correct?
payment, but they were just sent directly to
during the
those
period of
organizations,
engagement,
correct?
yes, we did communicate. Yes.
Can you please pull up Defendant's Exhibit 74, please, Michelle? 1639. Actually, let's do Defendant's Exhibit. Yeah, we'll do 1639. Thanks. Mr. White, this is a letter from you
do you
to
see
the
here this
ACLU
text
Foundation
exchange
dated
between
August
you and
24th,
Tracy Jacobs?
2016, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And
Your texts are
as
in white, and Ms. Jacobs
part of
are in
your work for
blue,
your
correct?
100 or
Yes.
so high-profile, high-net-worth clients, you've helped clients set up pledged contributions to charities before, correct?
Yes.
And sometimes those payments
Michelle, could you
are made
please
over a
scroll
period of
to,
time, correct?
the document that
Yes.
Charitable donations aren't always paid at
date
once,
stamp
correct?
Depp
That is correct.
19246.
And
It's not
when
the
you
fifth or
make
sixth one down.
payments on behalf of your clients to charities, is it customary for you to send a cover letter like this?
In some instances, yes. In some instances, no.
Okay.
But in
And-
all instances, that there is a signed agreement and an understanding of when the
Yeah,
payments will be made.
sir, that wasn't my question. My question was just, is it customary for you to send a letter like this?
Mr. White, do you-
And I think you've answered that. And so when you
see
send
here
letters
the
like
third
this on behalf
text
of your
down
clients, do
from
you prepare
Tracy
such
Jacobs
letters
to
in the
you,
ordinary course of your business?
In some instances, yes.
saying,
And when you,
thanks, I
in
got
the
a call
instances
from
in which you
Disney
prepare
last
those letters,
week
do you then
saying
maintain
he
those
showed up
letters?
5
Objection,
hours
Your
late
Honor,
for
hearsay.
CPR.
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd move
It's
for
not hearsay,
admission
it's
of
party
Defendant's
opponent.
Exhibit
She's his agent.
1639.
Any
I'm happy to
objection?
approach if you'd like to discuss.
All right, 1639 in evidence, and you can publish it to the jury. Thank you.
And Michelle, if you could please just scroll through, Mr. White, I just want you to see there's the letter here. We'll come back to the letter. And then there's the check that you're making out to the ACLU. Then there's, I guess, the envelope or something, right?
Correct.
Okay. If you can go back to the letter, please. So in this cover letter, you tell the ACLU that you're enclosing a check for $100,000 and that the donation is being made in accordance with Ms. Heard's pledged gift of $3.5 million to the ACLU Foundation, correct?
Yes.
And you also write that the check represents, that the check represents the first of multiple scheduled installments, correct?
It was my understanding that
I'm
she
just
was
asking
going
if
to
that's what you
contribute
wrote. I'm just asking if that's
$3,500,000
what
to
you wrote,
children.
sir.
You've asked me a question. I'm trying to respond.
No,
to
I
you.
was actually just asking if that's what you wrote.
Would you ask the question again, please?
Yeah, you write, this check represents the first of multiple scheduled installments to honor the full amount of Ms. Heard's $3.5 million pledged gift.
It was my understanding she was going to contribute the money, and that's
Okay,
consistent
sir,
with my
I just
response.
asked if that's what you wrote. I think you've answered that. Can we please pull up Exhibit 1596?
Your Honor, before we go to the next exhibit, can I raise an issue at the,
Okay,
at the
sure.
bar? Thank you.
1, 5.
Mr. White, is this a letter similar to what we just looked at for the ACLU, a letter that you wrote that accompanied the check that you sent to the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles Foundation.
Yes,
And this letter and whatever payment, this letter is one that you would have prepared in the ordinary course of business, correct?
yes,
And you would have maintained this letter in the ordinary course of business, correct?
yes.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of Exhibit 1596.
All right, 1596 in evidence. You can publish it to the jury.
And Mr. White, this letter also says at the bottom that it represents, the check that accompanies this letter represents the first of multiple scheduled installments to honor the full amount of Ms. Heard's $3.5 million pledged gift, correct?
When I composed the letter that was misstating that she was.
Sir, you're really not answering my question. My question was simply, I understand that you want to speak your own narrative here, but my question was simply that this letter says that this check represents the first of multiple scheduled installments to honor the full amount of Ms. Heard's $3.5 million pledged gift, correct?
We can both read the letter, and the answer is yes.
Thank you, sir. Now, you hosted a dinner with Mr. Depp and Adam Waldman in 2016, correct?
I do recall that.
And that was the first time that Mr. Depp had been introduced to Mr. Waldman, correct?
I do not know that, to be factual.
Now, you are not an expert on California divorce law, right?
Correct.
And you're not an expert on the division of marital property in California, correct?
I'm not an expert, but I've been actively involved in numerous cases involving the dissolution of the marriage and the related proceeds are distributed to each respective party.
Now, you can't give any sort of legal opinion or testimony as to whether or not Ms. Heard would have been entitled to more in the divorce settlement with Mr. Depp than she received, correct?
I'm not an attorney at law.
Okay.
I don't render legal opinions.
So, you've never met Amber Heard, correct?
That is correct.
The first time you've ever seen her in person is here in this courtroom this afternoon, correct?
That's my recollection.
And you have no personal knowledge of whether Mr. Depp engaged in domestic abuse against my client, correct?
I've never witnessed him involved in any abuse, and obviously I've never met her. I could not respond to that inquiry.
So the answer to my question is that it's correct, that you have no personal knowledge of whether Mr. Depp engaged in domestic abuse against Amber Heard.
That is correct. I have no knowledge.
Nothing further.
All right, redirect. Mr. Dennison?
Can we pull up defendants 1596? Sir, could you read the last line of your letter?
This check represents the first of multiple scheduled installments to honor the full amount of Ms. Heard's $3.5 million pledged gift.
What was the schedule for those payments?
They were scheduled. I don't know the schedule because I don't have a copy of any pledge that she made, if that's your question.
Okay, thank you very much. One more question. Has Mr. Depp paid all his taxes?
Yes, he has. He's fully current with all of his federal, foreign, and state tax obligations.
Thank you.
All right, no further questions, Mr. Dennison?
No further questions.
All right, is this witness subject to recall? No? All right, Mr. White, you're free to go. Thank you, sir. Just be very careful stepping down there, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Have a good day. All right, your next witness is remote witness, correct? All right. Let me
Nhân
just
chính kế tiếp là một người phỏng vấn qua từ xa.
wait a moment.
Your Honor, may we just ask what witness they plan to call?
I see a Mr. Connolly in the lobby, so I'm assuming that must be the one. Okay, good. Okay, good. Good. I'm glad we got that one. All right.
Mr. White,
Mr. Connolly, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
we just saw the text that I started reading. Do you
Yep.
remember
Hi.
that
Yeah.
text?
Can you
Yes.
turn your
Okay.
camera on,
We're
sir?
just gonna show you, and move for admission of that page of the
Okay,
document.
there we go.
with
There we go.
All right, sir, if you could raise your right hand.
That text, so I just wanted.
Do you
since
swear
won't
affirm to
see
tell the truth
anything
under
else, I
penalty
just
of law?
wanted You to orient
I do.
yourself that that is the text that we were just reading, okay?
Fine.
All right, and good afternoon, Mr. Connolly.
Good afternoon.
And would you please state your full name for the record?
Malcolm
You're right.
Connolly.
And
That
Mr.
page
Connolly,
with that-
where
David
are you
redacted, just
testifying
that one
from
text.
at the
Thank you.
moment?
From home, Essex, UK.
And where do you live?
I live in Essex, UK.
Mr. Connolly, what is your occupation?
Your Honor, I would move for
At
admission of this
present,
document as, I guess we could call it,
protection officer.
defendant's 874A.
Okay, 874A with the redactions, all right, thank you.
Pentonville, HMS prison. But right now, yeah, I'm a protection officer.
Mr. White, you
Okay,
just
and
testified.
can you tell us a little bit,
a
just
few minutes
generally
ago that
what
you
that
you
means?
didn't have any understanding of Mr.
It
Depp
means
showing up
looking after the personal well-being.
late for work on Pirates 5, but in
physical
fact,
well-being
you
of
received
any
this
client
text
in
from
detail to.
And how long have you been in the personal security business?
25 years.
Over the course of those 25 years, have
Tracy
you had
Jacobs
any
that
other
says,
kinds
"Thanks.
of jobs?
I got a call from Disney last
Yeah,
week.
as I said, I was a corrections officer for.
He's saying he showed up 5 hours late for ADR work in London for Pirates 5. I really need to speak to him
Are you
before he
familiar
starts
with
work
the
on his
plaintiff in this case, Johnny Depp?
I am, yes.
And how do you know Mr. Depp?
next project in LA. Did I read that right?
Maybe about 20.
Permission to publish this, Your Honor?
3 years
yes,
ago,
I'm sorry.
24 years ago, I worked for a company called Music
You want me to-
House. The
you
guy
want me to
who owns
respond?
that company was Jerry Judge.
I just wanted to ask you if I read
Jerry
that right, that
started
you
working
received this
with
text
Johnny
message saying in part,
way
I
back
got a
in the
call
early
from
days, and I was detailed to looking after Johnny's ex,
Disney last week,
Vanessa Paradis,
saying he showed up
and,
5 hours
Jack
late for
and
ADR work in
Rose,
London
Johnny's
for
kids.
Pirates 5.
And
I
my
really
job
need
is
to
just to
speak to
make
him
sure
before he starts
they were
work
safe
on this
and
next
Johnny
project
was
in LA. Did I read that right?
So that job, after about a year and a half, 2 years, Johnny asked me to go over him.
If you read it right,
Thank you.
And we'll find
Now-
someone else to do the kids and that. And that's how I came across Johnny.
At some point, you became familiar-
I met Johnny there.
You can
Can you ballpark for us about what year that was?
Oh, 2006.
go ahead and take it down. Thank you. As you've testified
And
with
can you
what
generally
Amber
just
planned to do
tell
with
us
money
a
that
little
she
bit
got
about
from
what you
Mr.
do
Depp in the divorce,
for Mr.
correct?
Depp as his
it was
security?
the understanding from the beginning the money would be contributed to charities.
The two charities, to the
Contracts are
Children's
drafted in that
Hospital of
manner.
Children's Hospital of LA
Places.
and
Make
the
sure he's okay,
ACLU,
make
correct?
sure,
That is correct.
he's not in
And
any
as we
danger.
discussed, you wrote
First of all,
checks to
do the
those two
recce.
organizations
You go along
that were
first.
part of
There's usually a two-man
Mr.
team,
Depp's
two-man
divorce
team.
payment, but they were just sent directly to those
Go along,
organizations,
do
correct?
your recce, make sure all the ins and outs.
Yes.
Can you
So-
please pull up
No
defendant's
compromises,
exhibits?
any risks involved, do a risk assessment.
Um,
We do the job. I look after
1639.
Basically, I look after Johnny whenever we're in public domain. Whenever we're going to
Actually,
be
let's
in
do-
public domain.
Let's do
I will
defendant's
look
exhibit,
Okay,
Yeah, we'll
and
do 160.
how about the defendant in this case, Amber Heard? Are you familiar with Miss Heard?
I am familiar with Miss Heard, yeah. I first met Miss Heard in probably 2000 and I don't recall the actual date, probably about 2010.
Mr. White, this is a letter from
She
you
came into
to the
the
ACLU Foundation dated
to,
August
promotional
24th,
job for a
2016,
movie called
correct?
Drive Angry.
Yes.
And
My
as
boss, Jerry Judge,
part of your
detailed,
work for your 100
went and met
or
Amber.
so high-profile, high-net-worth
Amber was
clients.
with her ex,
You've helped clients
Tasha, and I looked after Amber for a week.
set up pledged
Pledged
contributions
weeks,
to
fine,
charities
yeah.
before, correct?
Yes,
And
does anything
sometimes
say
those
that?
payments are made
Sorry, yeah. After that week, I never seen
over a period of time,
Amber
correct?
again until we did the rum
yes,
diary.
Charitable donations aren't always paid at once, correct?
After show, we were
that is correct.
And when you make payments on
Okay,
behalf of your
so
clients to charities,
Let's move to the
is it
rum diary
customary
then.
for you to send
When
a
did you
cover
see
letter
Ms.
like
Heard?
this?
Well, how did you see Ms. Heard in
In some
connection with the rum diary?
We done the rum diary premiere. We went to the after show party.
Instances,
you know,
yes,
everybody
in
working
some
their job.
instances, no.
Myself was
Okay.
very good.
But in
And-
all instances,
Seen
that
Amber
there
across
is-
the floor. Amber seen me.
a signed agreement and an understanding of when
Yeah,
What
that-
are you doing? You know, you
Hey.
Sir, that wasn't my
chit-chat-
question. My question was just, is it
chit-chatted for a
customary for
minute or
you to
two.
send a letter like this?
Johnny
I think
asked
you've
me if
answered
I
that.
actually knew Amber.
And so when you send letters like this on
Explain,
behalf of your clients, do you
that's the last I spoke to Amber.
prepare such letters in the ordinary course of your business?
Johnny, I've done my job.
in some instances, yes.
And when you, in the
Did you
instances
know
in which
at
you
the
prepare those
time
letters, do you then
and,
maintain those letters?
Well,
in the
let's
ordinary
back up
course
for a
of your
second. Where was that premiere?
Do you know what? I don't recall. I think it was.
Yes.
I think it
Your
was
Honor, I'd
Adelaide.
move for admission of Defendant's Exhibit 160.
Okay.
I don't actually recall.
Okay. Did you know at the time of that premiere in probably LA, but possibly somewhere else? Did you know at the time that Mr.
Any
Depp and Ms.
objection?
Heard were seeing each
All
other
right,
romantically?
1639 in evidence.
No, I didn't. I actually didn't. I mean, I surmised
And
that
Publish it to the
spark
jury.
there, you know.
Thank you.
It wasn't till maybe a few days later, a few nights later.
And Michelle, if you could please just
But,
scroll through, Mr. White, I just want you to see there's the letter here.
And Amber and Johnny were basically, you know, sparking.
We'll come back to the
They
letter.
were
And
getting
then there's
together. Then
the
I
check
sorta assumed
that you're making out to the
you know,
ACLU.
There was a romance happening there, budding there, you know.
Then there's, I guess, the envelope.
Over the course
right?
of Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard's relationship with each other, about how often would you say you saw them together?
Okay, you can go back
in
to
the
the letter,
beginning,
please.
actually not
So
a
in
lot,
this-
you know,
in
not
this,
a lot. Maybe once
In this
a
cover
week,
letter,
yeah,
you
twice a
tell
week,
the
that's it.
ACLU that you're enclosing a
But
check for
then it
$100,000
started,
and that the
it started
donation is
maturing
being made in
something the
accordance with
relationship. So more often as the time went on, you know.
Ms. Heard's pledged gift of $3.5 million
And
to the ACLU.
as time went
Foundation.
on, did you
Correct.
have an opportunity to observe how Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard interacted with each other?
Yes.
And you also write that the
At
check
beginning,
represents,
you know,
just
LBW,
go ahead.
it was great, you know, the honeymoon
the check
period was
represents
on,
the first
yeah, it was good. I mean,
of
it was
multiple
great
scheduled
to see Johnny
installments,
happy
correct?
again.
It was
Amber
my understanding that
I'm
she
just
was
asking
going to
about what you
contribute
wrote.
charming.
I'm just asking if that's what
$3,500,000
you
to
wrote.
children. You've asked me a question, I'm trying to respond.
No, I was actually
Then
just asking if
things,
that's what you
you
wrote.
know, things started to change.
Would you
Amber
ask the
started
question
to
again,
change.
please?
Yeah,
Amber
you write,
started,
this check represents
getting a bit, I would say, a
the
bit
first
more,
of multiple scheduled installments to honor the
feisty,
full amount of
demanding, you know. I could see that Amber wanted to wear the pants in this relationship. That was pretty obvious.
And what in particular made you think that you observed personally?
Ms. Heard's $3.5 million pledge gift.
Just the way.
It was my understanding she was
you
going
know,
to contribute the
something
money.
wasn't
and
quite
that's
Okay,
consistent
sir,
with
I just,
Amber could get a bit frosty at the drop of a hat. So as time went on, you know, I could see them.
just asked if that's what you
change.
wrote.
I could see Amber
I think
change.
you've
I could
answered
see
that.
Johnny getting
Can we
wiser.
please pull up
get into the car
exhibit
and, you know,
1596?
Your Honor, before we go to the
things
next exhibit,
started
can I
changing.
raise an issue?
Amber started
Okay,
to get
sure.
a bit more grumpy, shall we say.
How did she get along with you?
Absolutely fine. Amber was fine with me. Amber was never anything but professional, polite with me. You know, she was. No, Amber was fine with me.
Did you ever see or hear any arguments between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard?
When you say see, I heard. I mean, I could hear at times in certain accommodations we'd be staying at. I could hear Amber, screaming. You know, I could hear shouting and bawling, and yeah, I could hear it going on. Yeah, but I mean, I wasn't there every single night. When we're working in the UK, there's nights maybe I'd get home because Jerry would be there. But yeah, I did hear. Yeah, definitely for a fact. I could hear sometimes the shouting and bawling. You know, it's mostly I could hear Amber screaming. You know.
About how, I recognize this was years ago, but can you estimate for us how regularly that happened?
Mr.
I
White,
can't say regularly. I can't say it was like every
is
day.
this a
You know,
letter
it get more regular.
similar
It get
to what
more-
we just-
It get more often than not.
looked at for the ACLU, a letter that
Did
you
you
wrote
ever witness
that
any
accompanied
physical
the check
violence?
that you sent to the
between the
Children's
two of them?
Hospital of Los Angeles?
No, never. I've never seen any
Yes.
physical violence.
And this
It's not a thing that,
letter
it's
and
not a thing
whatever
people
payment,
would do
or
in front
sorry,
of
this
security.
letter is
It's
one
not a
that
thing that would happen in front of myself or Jerry Judge or Sean Bett or some.
you would have prepared in the ordinary course of business,
It
correct?
wouldn't happen.
Yes.
And you
No, I never
would have
seen any
maintained this letter
physical security. I never seen any hands on
in the ordinary course of business, correct?
Yes.
Okay, what do you
Your
mean
Honor,
you
for the
never saw
admission
any
of-
hands-on?
Well, I never seen any
Of
slapping
Exhibit
or
1596.
grabbing
All right,
or
1596.
punching or hitting. I've never seen any of that physically. Well,
And publish it to the jury.
I'll tell you what. There was an instance, maybe.
And Mr. White,
Two
this
entities that come to
letter
my mind.
also
One incident was
says
on a
at the bottom
private
that it
plane.
represents the check that accompanies
I
this
can't
letter.
recall
It
if it was a
represents the
domestic
first
flight or an
of
international
multiple
flight.
scheduled installments to honor the full amount
I'm
of Ms. Heard's
sitting-
$3.5 million
Johnny
pledge
and Amber, or
gift, correct?
Johnny, whoever.
When I composed the letter, that was my understanding that she was going to give $3.5
Sir,
million.
sir,
And
you're really not answering my question. My question was simply, I understand that you want to,
the forward end of the plane. So I usually look up the fuselage that way. My back to
you
the
want to
wall.
speak your own
Amber
narrative
had
here,
her back
but
to
my
me.
question was
Johnny
simply
sitting across the table.
that says that this
I can't
check
hear
represents the
because, you know,
first
something
of
about check
multiple
wrap.
scheduled
I can't
installments
actually hear.
to honor the
It's
full
more
amount of Ms.
animated
Heard's
than verbal. And
$3.5 million
I
pledge
see
gift,
a
correct?
lighter, a plastic lighter.
We can both read the letter.
Bounce off
The
his
answer is
chest.
yes.
Thank you, sir.
Bounce off his chest. So right away I think, well, this
Now,
is going to
you hosted a dinner
It's either
with
going to
Mr.
go one way
Depp.
or the other. I don't think it came to much. I remember Johnny just sort of, smirking and looking away as if to say, well, what is that?
And Adam Waldman in
Kinda attitude,
2016,
you know?
correct?
And Johnny tips his hat, puts his head against the window, and well,
I do recall that.
I'm out, you know.
And that was the first
another
time
time,
that
I was at the
Mr.
loft
Depp
apartment.
had been introduced to Mr. Waldman,
I
correct?
was in the
I do not know
security
that.
room
Be
in
factual.
the loft apartment.
You are not an
The
expert
security guard
on
called,
California divorce law.
Do you know what? I
right?
can't recall if it was
Correct.
Sean Bett.
And
or
you're not an
Johnny.
expert on the division of marital property
Anyway, I
in
got the
California,
text. I
correct?
was down there to pick him up to go to
I'm not an expert, but
the
I've been
West
actively
Hollywood accommodation. And
involved in numerous cases
I got the text.
involving disillusionment of marriage
To the extent he's going to talk
and
about what the
the
text
related
says, you're saying.
proceeds are distributed to each respective
Uh,
party.
You can just tell us what you observed without without recounting the contents of the text.
Okay. I'm instructed to go and get Johnny.
Now, you can't
Objection, he just
give
said
any
what he
sort of
instructed.
legal
All right,
opinion
I'll sustain the objection.
or testimony.
What did
as
you
to
do
whether
after you received the text?
or not
I go
Ms.
to
Heard
the-
would have been
the
entitled
law
to
department.
more in the divorce
The door's ajar slightly.
or settlement with
Just
Mr.
like
Depp than
just
she
a
received,
crack
correct?
in the door.
I'm not an attorney at
Push the door
law.
open.
I
go
don't
in.
render legal opinions.
Shouting, there's a bit of shouting going on.
You've
Can't
never
really-
met Amber
I can't
Heard,
hear.
correct?
I'm in the wrong area
That
of
is
the
correct.
The
apartment.
first time you've ever seen her in
But
person is here in
as I
this
turn
courtroom
to
this
the left
afternoon,
into
correct?
the more of the lounge area,
That's my recollection.
there's a
And
soda
you have
can.
no personal
I
knowledge
don't
of
know- I
whether
don't know if it's
Mr. Depp
Coca-Cola
engaged in
or
domestic
what,
abuse against my
Sprite, or
client,
I don't know what it was.
correct?
But it's launched from the mezzanine. And Johnny's had this huge
I've
TV,
never witnessed him
the biggest TV I've ever
involved
seen.
in any
in fact, but
abuse,
this-
and
and it's on this mechanical arm, which is an actual piece of artwork that Johnny had.
obviously I've never met her. I could not respond to
And
that
anyway,
inquiry.
this big
So the answer to my
mechanical arm
question
holds
is
this TV.
that it's correct, that
So
you
this
have
kind of
no personal
pop,
knowledge
pop,
of
pop.
whether Mr. Depp engaged in
Smashes on
domestic
that.
abuse
Well,
against
force,
Amber
let me
Heard.
add, because it made a bang,
That
boom.
is correct. I have no knowledge.
And all
Now direct,
spraying all over the place.
Mr. Dennison.
Johnny has already got his jacket on and a bag on his shoulder. That's why he's called me in, because we're leaving. I just pick
Pull
up
up
the other bags, two bags.
defendant's
Pick up
1596.
two bags, put my hand through Johnny's arm and say, right, boss, we're leaving. We walk out the door. We walk out the door and we go halfway to the West Hollywood. Johnny's already calmed down, you know, he's like, man, can you...
Objection,
No,
objection
but-
to the extent he's talking, what Mr. Depp is saying.
All right, I'll sustain that objection. Continue.
If you have,
Sir, could you read the last line?
I think we can move on.
Okay, all right.
Your letter.
Next question.
Just to clarify, Mr. Connolly, when the soda can was launched from the mezzanine,
This check represents
where was
the
Mr.
first
Depp in
of
relation
multiple
to where
scheduled
the soda can
installments to honor
landed?
the full amount of Ms. Heard's $3.5 million pledged gift.
10 feet. 10,
What was the schedule for those payments?
10 feet back from that. 10
They
feet
were
back
scheduled.
from that.
I don't know the schedule because I don't
Okay,
have a
and
copy.
just to make sure
of
we're
any
on the same
pledge that
page,
she
when you
made.
refer to the loft apartments,
that's your question.
what are you referring to?
Thank you very much.
The downtown LA, Eastern.
One more question.
Okay.
Has Mr. Depp paid all his taxes?
What
Yes, he
was
has.
your?
He's fully
Did
current
you
with
form
all
any
his
understanding as to
federal,
where,
Foreign.
as to who
and
had
state tax
thrown the soda can?
obligations.
Objection,
well,
speculation.
you know,
Oh, good. Oh, hold on, sir. Was
Speculation, foundation.
I'm just
No
asking
further questions,
if you
Mr. Dennison?
formed an understanding.
all
You
right.
can state
Is
the
this
basis
witness
of that
subject to recall?
if you did.
Wait, if you want to lay a foundation.
Did you, to your knowledge, was Ms. Heard present in the apartment at the time?
Objection leading.
yes.
I'll allow
I could
it.
hear her. I never seen her physically, but I could hear her voice.
No?
Yes.
All right, Mr.
And
White,
where
you're
does
free to
her-
go. Thank
could
you,
you
sir.
tell where
Just
her
be
voice
very
was coming
careful
from?
stepping down there, okay?
Thank you.
Upstairs, just upstairs.
Thank you. Have a good day.
She wasn't on the lower apartment with us, so I can only imagine
All right,
she was
you're-
upstairs.
Other than the
Next witness is
than
remote
the-
witness, correct?
cigarette lighter and the soda can,
All right. Let me
anything
just
else similar to that you observed?
Give him don't.
No, I can't say no.
Did you ever observe any physical injuries on Ms. Heard?
Never, no.
How about on Mr. Depp?
Yeah.
Wait a moment.
Yes. It started off with maybe a scratch once in a while.
Your Honor, may we just ask what witness they plan to
swell,
call?
but
I see
got
a mis-
more. It got more, yeah. I'm not talking he was marked every week.
Mr.
every 2
Connolly
weeks,
in the
but
lobby, so
yeah,
I'm assuming that must be-
He sustained marks, yeah, definitely.
That must be the
He was getting
one.
marked.
Okay,
Can
good.
you describe for us
Good. I'm
what you
glad
can
we got
remember?
that. All right.
Yeah,
Objection, Your Honor. Can we
And the present
broach
service.
for
Okay.
a minute?
All right. Hold on, Mr. Connolly, for a minute.
So, Mr. Connolly, you can continue responding. I think the question was just, can you generally describe for us what you remember about the marks you saw on Mr. Depp?
yes. As I was saying, in the prison service, you're taught to pick up, log in your mind, mental logging in your mind, marks, bruises, bully patterns, stuff. What I noticed right away was most of these marks and most of these things through my training is happening in the left-hand side of his face. And it would be scratches on his neck, maybe a fat lip in the corner, maybe a bruising on the eye socket. Dull impacts, you know, except for obviously the scratches, maybe on below his left ear. Sometimes it'd be two marks, 2 lines, 2 trams, 1. Yeah, you know, yeah. And it was getting more regular. I'm not, as I say, not every week, but it was definitely happening. Yeah.
Can we see Plaintiff's Exhibit 162, please?
Mr. Connolly, can you hear me?
And Mr. Connolly, are you able to see the picture on, I assume you can see it on your screen.
Yeah, just a second, please. Yeah, hi, yeah.
And do you,
Yes.
Yeah, I know that picture. I took that picture.
you
that
took the,
picture's on the audit. Yeah, I
Yes,
took that
sir.
picture.
can you just quickly tell
Yes,
us
hi, yeah.
what this picture is?
This picture is
Can you turn your camera on, sir?
Miss Heard and Johnny's honeymoon on the Orient Express.
Okay, there we go.
On
There we
the
go.
East Line. From
All right, sir, if you could raise your
Bangkok
right hand.
to Singapore.
Do you swear affirm to tell the truth under penalty of law?
Kuala Lumpur
I do.
and a few other
Alright.
places on the way down. And that is in the...
All right, and good afternoon, Mr. Connolly.
Yeah, dining court.
Good
that's what that
afternoon.
is. The guy on the
And would you
left
please
there
state
with the silver band.
your full name for the record?
He's the waiter. He's the
Malcolm
waiter
Connolly.
with the details
And
of the
Mr. Connolly, where are
The
you
guy in the bow
testifying
tie,
from at the moment?
He's guest relations
From
manager.
home.
Mr. Connolly, just hold on one second. Before we continue describing.
And where do you
the document,
live?
I'd move for the admission of
I live in
plaintiff's
Essex,
trial
UK.
exhibit 162 and that it be published to the jury.
Any objection?
I'd like to approach it.
Okay.
Mr. Connolly, what is your occupation?
At present, close protection operative. I've had a couple of professions. I'm a bricklayer at the trade. I was in the corrections facility, Pentonville, HMS prison. But right now, yeah, I'm a protection operative.
Okay, and can you tell us a little bit, just generally, what all right, that and Mr. Connolly, I apologize for cutting you off,
It
but
means,
could you just continue
looking
to
after
describe for
the
us
personal
what we're
well-being.
looking at in this picture?
Physical well-being.
Yeah, as I said, the guy
of
in the
any
bow
client
tie
with detail
is
to-
guest relations manager. He was detailed to, fix us up anything we needed. To excursions and transports and stuff. Then it's Miss Heard. The guy, that's the chef who looked after this. He cooked for us.
And how long have you been in the personal security business?
Yeah, he looked after us. And that's when
25 years.
And I also noticed, if you look at that picture,
Over the course of those
Like I
25
said,
years, have you had
on the
any other?
left-hand side, under his eye, there's a swelling. And you see a swelling
kinds of
just on the
jobs?
left-hand side of his nose and under
Yeah,
his left
as I
eye.
said, I was a corrections officer for Her Majesty.
And what do you interpret that swelling to be?
What
Are
do I
you
interpret
familiar
it as?
with the plaintiff in this
That's,
case, Johnny Depp?
Either he's walking
I am,
into
yes.
a door.
And
or
how
a
do you
door
know
walking
Mr. Depp?
into him.
I know Mr. Depp.
Can you tell us anything, and we can take this down, I think. Thank you.
Maybe about
Mr. Connolly, can you tell us,
3 years ago,
well, first of all,
24
what,
years ago,
do you recall what year Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard went on their honeymoon in the picture we were just looking at?
that would I worked for a company called Music and
I don't know,
Arts.
is it
The guy who owned that company was Jerry Judge.
13?
Jerry
Okay, and were you,
Started working
well, you
with Johnny
testified that you took the picture, so
way
you were
back
there,
in
I
the early
assume?
days. And I was
Absolutely,
detailed
yes.
looking after
What can you tell us about that trip
Johnny
generally, and particularly focused on how Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard were interacting with each other?
Started off good. Johnny's cabin was maybe
Vanessa Paradis and
15
Jack.
meters down the corridor from mine. There was no cabins in between. There was like storerooms, like blankets
And Lily
cutlery.
Rose, Johnny's kids.
So
And my
the
job was
cabin's
just to make
quite a-
sure they were safe.
Not
Johnny
a
was at work.
big massive distance, but
So that job,
the
after
trip
about a
started
year and a
fine.
half, 2 years,
Absolutely fine.
Johnny
I
asked
think
me
5,
to
6
go over him
days, 5
directly.
days maybe.
and we'll
2
find
days,
someone
3
else
days
to
into the
do
trip.
the kids and that. And that's how I came
see
across
Johnny
Johnny.
going down.
That's
You
why
see him coming
that's
down,
how
you
I
know.
personally met Johnny Depp.
Can you
he's not
ballpark
enjoying
for
it.
us about what year that was?
But I can't.
Oh,
it's not my
2000
business to step in and that. I just do my
6.
job, but I can see he's not enjoying this. It's not.
Okay.
He's not happy.
And can you generally just
He's not
tell
happy.
us a little bit about what you do?
Did you ever observe
for
any
Mr.
arguments
Depp,
between Mr. Depp
as
and Ms.
his,
Heard in this
security
timeframe?
guard?
Just not arguments.
I will escort
but,
Johnny to every day,
Miss Heard,
public places.
sort of demanded that
Make sure he's
we
okay.
have our
Make
own,
sure
our own
he's not in any danger.
dining cart.
First of all, do the recce. You
So,
know, you go
me doing
along
my
for-
job, I
It's
inquire.
usually a two-man
to
team. It's a
the
two-man
guest
detail.
guy there that you've seen in the photograph.
You go along,
And he
do
quite
your
rightly
recce,
tells me that,
make sure all the
there's other
Objection,
VIPs
hearsay,
on the
objection,
train.
hearsay.
sorted.
Objection to hearsay, all right.
No
I think we did
compromises.
before.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
sustain the objection.
Risks
Next
involved,
question.
risk assessment. We do the
All
job.
right, so Mr.
I look after him.
Mr. Connolly,
I look after Johnny whenever we're in public domain.
well, taking a
Whenever
step
we're
back
gonna
for a
be
minute
in
and
a
changing
public
topics
domain,
slightly.
I look
Um,
after Johnny.
Have you ever seen Mr. Depp use
Okay.
any drugs? And how about the defendant in this case, Amber Heard? Are you
I'll-
familiar with Ms. Heard?
Yes, I've seen him smoke marijuana. I had my suspicions. I have my suspicions that when
I
he
am
was off to the
familiar with
bathroom,
Heard, yeah.
he
I
probably
first
does a
met
bit
Miss
Heard.
Heard in probably
I've never seen him do it.
2000
Mr. Depp would never do
I don't recall
a
the
line or anything
actual
cocaine in
date.
front of
Probably
me.
about 2000.
Jerry Judge or Sean Bett or anybody.
maybe
Mr.
around there.
Johnny Depp
went
would
to
never
the UK
compromise my
to
license.
do a
my
promotional
position.
job for a movie called
and
Drive
embarrass
Angry.
me like that. It wouldn't happen.
So
My
the
answer
boss,
to your
Johnny
question,
Judge,
I've seen him smoke
asked me
weed,
to
yes.
get the detail.
You noticed any particular,
Went, met Amber, started the job.
what
Amber
changes, if any, have you noticed in his behavior when he's
was
under the
correct.
influence of marijuana?
Tasha. I looked after Amber for a week.
To be honest,
Pleasant week. It was
a
fine.
bit
Great.
more, a bit more.
Does anything
relaxed,
stand-
you know, sort of uptight.
Sorry,
But
yeah.
I mean, he's not out of his head.
After that
he's
week,
perfectly
I never
functioning.
seen
I mean,
Amber
he can
again.
talk about
So
anything,
we
any
did
conversation you want to talk about.
the
He's neither up nor down with that. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
he really isn't.
After
He's
show,
got a
we
very
went
high
live.
tolerance for any substance, Johnny. You know, I would say so. You know, I think Jack Sparrow's more drunk than Johnny Depp. To be honest.
Okay, so let's move. So okay, so that's marijuana. What about alcohol? Same question.
He likes. He used to like a wine, and the last. I would say the last.
From diary then.
Couple of years,
When did you see
that's
Ms.
dropped
Heard?
drastically as
Well, how did you see Ms.
It's,
Heard in
uh,
connection with
In my last year with Johnny, it's quite actually rare.
the rum
now.
diary?
Not rare, but he's not a big boozer now. He's not a boozer now.
Well,
you know,
we've done the rum diary.
and he was never out his head in wine. He was never, you know. I think I've seen
no,
drunk
busy working.
in the 20 odd years I've been with
Doing my
Johnny.
job.
I think I've seen him
Self-very
drunk twice. And
seen Amber
when I say
across
drunk,
the
I mean
floor,
drunk.
Amber seen me.
Other than that, there's
Just
not a lot of
basically
difference
come
in
across the
Johnny's
floor, said
demeanour
hello,
or
how you
behaviour.
doing? You know, the usual.
Well, you're
chit-chat,
drinking alcohol or
chit-chatting for
smoking,
a minute or two. Johnny asked me
And,
how
and
that
finally,
could be Amber.
same
Explained,
question for the time
that's the last
periods
spoke
when
to Amber
you
that night. I
formed
was
the
too busy.
suspicion that he was under the influence of
Doing the job,
cocaine. Did you know
Sorry,
at the time, and
Could you ask
well,
me
let's
that
back
again?
up for a
What
second.
changes
Where
in his
was that
behavior, if
Premier?
any,
Did you observe on those occasions when you suspected but
Do
didn't
you
know
know
for
what I don't
sure
recall?
that he was under the influence of cocaine?
I think it was in,
Well,
I think it was
again,
in LA.
during the training I had in the HMP prison service, it just seemed a bit more. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't actually
Happier,
recall.
up, not so down, you know. But I wouldn't say he's not.
Did you
beating
know
around
at the
kicking
time
his
of that
heels or anything.
premiere in
You know, he
probably
picks
LA,
his
but
guitar
possibly
up
somewhere
and-
else.
And then he gets
did
right
you know at
into
the time that
guitar
Mr.
and-
Depp and Ms. Heard were
There's
seeing
no
each
major
other
changes, really.
romantically?
You know, he just.
No, I
fine,
didn't.
you know.
I actually didn't. I mean, I surmised that.
Now, you mentioned you traveled with Mr. Depp and Z Heard on their
There was a
honeymoon
spark there, you know. It wasn't till maybe
on the Orient Express.
maybe a few days.
Where else have you traveled with them?
Well,
Later,
all over the
a few nights
world,
later.
Japan,
China.
we got at a dinner party somewhere,
Germany.
a promotional
I've been
thing.
all over the States. Went to an interesting place, Hicksville. That's an
And,
interesting story.
Amber and Johnny were basically, you know,
Yeah,
sparking,
all over the world.
sparking.
Australia.
They were
Went to
getting
Australia.
together. Then I sort of
far
assumed
as
that, you know, there was a romance
And
happening
let's
there, budding
take
there.
that one at a time. Hicksville, you said.
Yeah, Hicksville. Yeah.
Over the course,
It's funky. I remember it. I remember Hicksville because it was a funky. It's a real funky place, you know.
Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard's
Amber
relationship
and,
with each other.
Johnny Depp.
About how often would you say you saw them together?
You know, a day and a night, I think it was. So we all off the trot. Amber would. Well, in the beginning, all head off. Not a lot. Well, Amber travelled with Johnny, but our friends all head off. I followed. Johnny wanted to drive his own. He got a beautiful big customised Plymouth. I think it's a 58 or 50. I don't not then it started. He had customised. Well, so he wants to drive this car. So myself and his assistant on, you know, Holmes, we used another Johnny's
And
cars.
as time went on, did you have an opportunity to?
We get to Joshua Tree, Hicksville. Stunning as you can imagine, but it's done in a very
Observe
funky theme.
how Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard interacted with each other?
Like, mine was an old railway caboose. Oh, you know, lovely, the old fort, you know, the fairground fortune teller head that comes around and stuff, all that. Yeah, it was good. Johnny and Amber's caravan. Great to see John. Maybe about 15 meters from Amber was, you know, maybe 20 meters. And that was done in the 1950s style, you know, like kitschy 1950s, you know, kind of thing. And the rest of the caravan, then things started and it was craziness. Anyway, Amber started to change. A load of booze comes up. Party starts. Well, I would say a bit more party starts. Feisty, demanding, you know, weed. And I think I can see that Amber wants to wear the pants in this relationship. Some psychedelic mushrooms, that's going around.
And what in particular
Well, the night gets a bit ruined as
made you think that you observed personally?
Everybody's happy, you know. Johnny Amber. Just the way as I'm watching what's happening, I can see Johnny and Amber getting a bit animated. You know, and they were probably about maybe 25 feet from me. So Amber could get approach, and I've been working with Johnny that long. I don't have to really say anything. I only have to look at his face. So time went on, and Johnny can talk to me through his face. He didn't see them. I could see them change. I could see Amber change. Right, and I say in a low voice. I could see Johnny getting quiet. You know, let's start walking towards the caravan. We get into the car, and nobody's speaking here. As I'm walking ahead, things started changing, going ahead. Amber started getting sort of, you know, bickering behind me. Johnny's trying.
How did she get along with you?
Low tone, you know. Absolutely fine. I keep thinking about quiet, but Amber's getting a bit more fine with me. A bit more loud, a bit more professional, polite with me. You know, she was. So anyway, I get them to the caravan. I put them inside, and I go.
Did you ever see or hear any arguments between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard?
Don't see anything until the next morning. When you say see, around the pool, I heard. I mean, I could hear at times. Couple of hours and heading back to staying up. I could hear.
What prompted you to
screaming? You know,
Do you have
I could hear shouting and bawling. And, yeah, I could hear. Yeah.
Not terribly much
I
more.
wasn't there every
10
single night.
to
We're going to
15
take our
minutes.
afternoon break then. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and take your 15-minute afternoon break, and then we'll come back and continue with the testimony, okay? Don't do any outside research and don't talk to anybody.
There's nights maybe I'd get home because Jerry would be there. But yeah, I did. Yeah, definitely for a fact. I could hear sometimes the shouting and bawling, you know. It's
All right, Mr. Connolly, I'm going to put you in the lobby for our break, okay? I'm going to come back and put you back in about 4:20.
Recognize this
Okay.
years ago, but
About
can
17
you
minutes,
estimate
about
for
17
us
minutes, okay,
how
sir?
regularly that happened?
All right, just don't discuss your testimony. All right, just don't discuss your testimony with anybody till then, okay?
Say regularly. I can't say
All right, thank you.
every day. But you know, it got more regular. It got more often than not.
All right.
Did you ever witness any physical violence between the two of them?
No, never. I've never seen any physical violence. It's a thing that it's not a thing people would do in front of security. It's not a thing that would happen in front of myself or Jerry Judge.
or Sean Bett or something. It just wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. No, I never seen any physical security. I never seen any hands-on, no.
Okay, what do you mean you never saw any hands-on?
Well, I never seen any slapping or grabbing or punching or hitting. I never seen any of that physically. I'll tell you what, there was an instance, maybe two incidents that come to my mind. One incident was on a private plane. I can't recall if it was a domestic flight or an international flight. I'm sitting... Johnny and Amber, or Johnny, whoever he's flying with, will sit up at the fore table. The fore table up aft, and myself and my colleagues will sit down the forward end of the plane. So I usually look up the fuselage that way, with my back to the nose. Amber had her back to me. Johnny sitting across the table, and there's a bit of bickering going on. I can't hear because, you know, you're talking about jet craft. I can't actually hear, and it's more animated than verbal. And a plastic lighter, bounce off his chest. Boom, bounce off his chest. So right away I think, well, this is going to escalate. Or say they're going to go one way or the other. I don't think it came to much. I remember Johnny just sort of, you know, smirking and looking away as if to say, you know, well, what is that? It kind of attitude, you know. And Johnny tips his hat, puts his head against the window, and whoa, I'm out, you know. Another time, I was at the loft apartment. I was in the security room in the loft apartments with a security guard called. Do you know what? I can't recall if it was Sean Bett or a guy called Donovan. Anyway, I got the text. I was down there to pick him up to go to the West Hollywood accommodation, and I got the text.
Objection
No.
to the extent he's going to talk about what the text is. That's hearsay.
You can just tell us what you observed without recounting the contents of the text.
Okay. I'm instructed to go and get Johnny, and because we're leaving.
Objection. He just said what he was instructed to do.
All right, I'll sustain the objection if you can.
What did you do after you received the text?
I go to the loft apartment. The door's ajar slightly, just a we call a crack in the door. Push the door open, and I go in. Shouting, there's a bit of shouting going on. I can't hear. I'm in the wrong area of the apartment. But as I turn to the left into the more of the lounge area, there's a soda can. I don't know if it's a Coca-Cola or a Sprite, or I don't know what it was. But it's launched from the mezzanine. And Johnny's had this huge TV, the biggest TV I've ever seen before, and it's on this mechanical arm, which is an actual piece of artwork that Johnny had got commissioned. And anyway, this big mechanical arm holds this TV. So this can of pop, you're going to call it pop, smashes on that, but with force, let me add, because it made a bang, boom. And all I can hear is it spraying all over the place. Johnny has already got his jacket on and a bag over his shoulder. That's why he's called me in, because we're leaving. I just pick up the other bags, pick up the 2 bags, put my hand through Johnny's arm and say, right, boss, we're leaving. We walk out the door. And we go halfway to the West Hollywood. Johnny's already calmed down, you know, he's like, man, can you...
Objection to the extent he's talking about what Mr. Depp is saying.
All right, I'll sustain that objection. Continue.
If you have, I think we can move on.
Okay, all right. Next question.
Just to clarify, Mr. Connolly, when the soda can was launched from the mezzanine, where was Mr. Depp in relation to where the soda can landed?
Probably 10 feet, maybe 10 feet back from that. 10 feet back from that.
Okay, and just to make sure we're on the same page, when you refer to the loft apartments, what are you referring to?
The downtown LA Eastern Building.
Okay. What was your, did you form any understanding as to where, as to who had thrown the soda can?
Objection,
well,
speculation.
no.
Okay, oh, hold on, sir.
Speculation, foundation.
I'm just asking if he formed an understanding, and he can state the basis
He
for
said he
that
didn't see it,
if he
so.
did.
Wait, if you want to lay a foundation.
Did you, to your knowledge, was Ms. Heard present in the apartment at the time?
Objection leading.
Yes.
I'll allow
I could
it.
hear her. I never seen her physically, but I could hear her voice. Yes.
And where did her, could you tell where her voice was coming from?
Upstairs, just upstairs.
Okay.
She wasn't on the lower apartment with us, so I can only imagine she was upstairs.
Other than the cigarette lighter and the soda can, anything else similar to that you observed?
No, I can't say no.
Did you ever observe any physical injuries on Ms. Heard?
Never, no.
How about on Mr. Depp?
Yeah, yes, yeah. It started off with maybe a scratch. Once in a while, a swelling, but it got more. It got more. Yeah, I'm not talking. He was marked every week or every 2 weeks, but yeah, he sustained marks. Yeah, definitely, he was getting marked.
And can you describe for us what you can remember?
Yeah.
Objection, Your Honor. Can we
Any presence
can we
here?
burn
Okay,
for a minute?
all right, hold on, Mr. Connolly, for a minute.
So, Mr. Connolly, you can continue responding. I think the question was just, can you generally describe for us what you remember about the marks you saw on Mr. Depp?
Yes. As I was saying. In the prison service, you're taught to pick up, log in your mind, mental logging in your mind. Marks, bruises, bully patterns, stuff. What I noticed straight away was most of these marks and most of these things through my training. It's happening in the left-hand side of his face, and it would be scratches on his neck, maybe a fat lip in the corner. corner, maybe a bruising on the eye socket. Dull impacts, you know, except for obviously the scratches, maybe on his left ear. Sometimes it'd be two marks, 2 lines, 2 trams, 1. Yeah, you know, yeah. It was getting more regular. As I say, not every week, but it was definitely happening. Yeah.
Can we see